Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so it's time to put in the normal curly kale, and this is the ground that I dug over last week. I showed you on the video. So it's already been sort of trodden down, and I'm just getting rid of some of the larger lumps. But with the kale, it's exactly the same. The curly kale, it's exactly the same as the broccoli. Really, you want to be planting this something like probably about, I'll just show you this one. I know it's slightly off the shot, but you want to be planting them probably around probably about 9 inches, sort of 18 inches apart the plants. So there's a sort of 9-inch radius around them, which is the way I always think of it. And you want to be planting these slightly deeper than they have been in the pots. Now, the one thing with brassicas that I've not really mentioned this season is brassicas are sort of quite an unforgiving plant, in the sense that if the plant's been shocked, it never really recovers properly. So, and what I mean by this is if you've had like a sort of a really cold session or something like that, where you know the weather's gone sort of cold on you and it's not really covered particularly well, or if the plants run dry, or if you've had anything like that, then the plants never really recover. And so what you need to do with brassicas is always make sure that they've been watered, you know, they don't run too dry. And more importantly, this time of year, the best tip I can give you is don't bring your brassicas straight out the greenhouse and put them straight in the ground unless it's a really nice warm day, and you can guarantee that the weather's going to be okay for the, you know, for at least, you know, the first few days. Because what you need to do is get the plants acclimatised to the outside environment. Now, it's well worthwhile if you're intending to plant out your brassicas, take them out of your greenhouse, and you need to kind of keep an eye on the weather anyway. But get them out of your greenhouse, say a week or you know, at least 2 or 3 days before you intend to plant them in the ground, and just let them acclimatise. Don't take them out of the pots. Just let them acclimatise to the you know, to the outside conditions, and then you'll find that the plant, you know, the transition for the plants between being in a pot and being in the greenhouse to being planted in the open ground and outside is much better for them, and the plants won't get shocked. So that's the best tip I can give you. So always make sure you harden your plants off, and always make sure, at least for the first sort of month or so that they're in their open ground, that you know, they're always kept watered. So if you do have a dry patch, I mean, you know, you don't need to nurture them, but what you do need to do is just make sure that they don't dry out. If they do dry out, you'll start to see signs of stress on the plant. You know, the leaves will start to change colour, possibly a little bit of wilting might go on, and that's really the plant telling you that you really do need to water it, because it's, you know, it's suffering a little bit. Now, obviously, you know, they're not too bad. You know, you can let them run a little bit dry, but always make sure, you know, at least every couple of days you come down. And if we've had a really particular dry season, you know, it's well worthwhile giving them a little bit of water every couple of nights or so. You know, just put a bit of water on them so they don't dry out, because that's basically what you need to avoid. And as I say, if that does happen, the plant doesn't tend to recover particularly well. So it's well worth your while looking after your brassicas, because, you know, they can be a little bit unforgiving if you let them go too dry. And as I say, when you're bringing them out of the greenhouse, always make sure that you harden your plants off, you don't put them out. And if it's too cold outside, don't bother bringing them out. Leave them in the greenhouse for a little bit longer. I mean, these, you know, these could potentially stay in the greenhouse for another couple of weeks. So just basically pick your time when the weather's going to be reasonably nice, and you know, the ground's not too dry. Harden them off and then put them in. But that's the best advice I can give you on brassicas. Just a very quick note: if you're buying your plants from a nursery or a garden centre or wherever, always look out for the seedling leaves, which are these two. These are basically the first two leaves that come out on the plant. Now, if the plant has still got these, that's a really good sign that the plant's been looked after, and you know that it's nice and healthy. The other quick note as well is, when I was talking about shocking the plants, also if you get any sort of whitefly or anything like that on the plant, always sort of keep your eye open for that, and then obviously just spray with garlic water or whatever, just to control the aphids. But you know, that's another reason that can potentially knock the plant back. Okay, so that's the curly kale in. Now, exactly the same as all of the other brassicas. What I will do is just give these a really good watering in now. Then I'll put sort of 2 or 3 cans of water on these, and then I'll be putting some sort of slug pellets around just to protect them whilst they're young. Now you can see sort of how far apart I've sort of planted them. They're just sort of, I don't know, sort of from plant to plant, they're probably around about sort of 14, 16 inches apart, and obviously the rows are around a sort of foot apart. So the actual plants, as I said before, are around kind of 14 inches apart if you imagine a 7-inch radius round. The reason I plant them close together like this is they do tend to be a little bit top heavy when they get a bit older, and they tend to flop over. So if you plant them this close together, what they will tend to do is keep each other sort of upright, if you like. They kind of support each other in the wind. Even though I've put the windbreak across the end there, I'm obviously still a little bit concerned that the wind may sort of blow them about. But anyway, that's all of the brassicas in pretty much. So we've got the calabrese or the green broccoli, we've got the purple broccoli in the next tunnel, and then we've got the curly kale here and the Nero kale over on this side. So there's just a few more of them to bob in next week or so, and then that'll be all the brassicas in for this year. So I just want to go through some of the comments that I had from the 2 videos that I posted last week, and before I start with the main sort of comments, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of the people who sent really kind comments with in response to the 100th episode that went out on the 1st year anniversary. I can't mention you all because there's about 40 of you or so, but I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for the support and comments and suggestions and tips that you've been passing on over the last 12 months. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Right, to the more specific comments that came in from the 99th video. The first one's from Mark Davidson, and he was saying, with regards to the worms that I put in the wormery, they're not all brandling worms. Some of them are white worms, and I suspected as such, Mark, because there are seemingly a couple of types in there. Now, Mark's an avid fisherman. If you don't know Mark's, if you've not been on Mark's channel yet, please do so. But Mark is not only a brilliant gardener, he's also really into his fishing and stuff like that. So Mark knows all about his worms, and basically he said if you go to any fishing shops and stuff like that, you can pick up half a kilo of worms for around £8. To be honest with you, Mark, when I got the worms for this, I actually went to 3 different fishing shops, and none of them had got worms at the time, so that's why I got mine over the internet. But I will be trying to get a few more worms later in the season. Next one comes from Aaron. Now, Aaron left a comment with regards to, you know, when I was planting the runner beans last week, and if you look at it from hang on, which way did they go? If you look at it from the bottom, they sort of grow up sort of anti-clockwise as they go up the stem, and Aaron said it's gravity that causes it. Well, I had another couple of comments from some friends as well, and to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what it is. So what I did a bit of research on the internet, and seemingly most vine plants will twist one particular way. Runner beans, as they grow up, will go anti-clockwise. Other plants will actually go the other way. In fact, most of them, almost all of them, go
clockwise as they go up the pole or wherever they're climbing. Runner beans are quite unusual in the fact that they actually go anti-clockwise as they go up. Irrespective of where you are in the world, if you're in the northern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere, or wherever, seemingly there are reports on the internet that they always go anti-clockwise. So I can only come to the conclusion that it must be genetics. There's some instruction in the beans, obviously, to make them go anti-clockwise. So that's, I don't know. There's a lot of conjecture on the internet that I've had a look at, but seemingly the mindset is they go anti-clockwise because they're programmed to do that from a genetic sort of makeup. Because other plants in exactly the same conditions, same garden, will go clockwise, where runner beans always go anti-clockwise. Right, the next one comes from Terry King and also Pam Kemp. Thank you for your comments, and there is another one later on as well. But they've said that they've had some upside down runner beans this year as well, and they've managed to sort of catch some of them and turn them up. Now, there's something a bit funny going on with runner beans this year. To be honest with you, I've never had a runner bean upside down before, and this year I've had probably, I don't know, probably about a dozen or so of them that have actually, for some reason, grown upside down. I don't know why, but there's another comment from, who was it now? From David Silsbury, and he said that he's never had runner beans growing upside down before as well. He always grows them the same way, and he's had about a dozen upside down as well this year. So there's something a bit peculiar going on with this year, but for some reason some of the runner beans are getting confused and they're trying to grow down. So I don't actually think they're in Australia or what, but I don't know. But some of the runner beans are growing upside down this year. Nobody knows why, but there's some strange phenomena going on here. The next one comes from Sam Williamson, and he was saying about earthing up potatoes. She was saying about earthing up potatoes and when should you be doing it? Right, earthing up potatoes you do it for two main reasons. The first one, with earlies, you earth them up to protect them against frost. If you're protecting them against frost, what you need to do is basically cover the plant completely. So basically, you literally bury the plant as it's growing up. You literally bury the plant. If you're earthing them up to to encourage them to grow longer and get a better yield, basically what you need to do is wait till the kind of sort of 6 inches or so above the ground, and then earth them up so that the top leaves are still showing. Don't completely bury them. So if you're trying to get your potatoes to be protected from the frost, completely cover them. If it's sort of this time of year and you're just earthing them up so that they'll sort of grow bigger, basically what I would do is wait till they're about kind of 6 inches or so high, and then earth them up until you've got probably about 2 inches above the ground, and then obviously that'll encourage them to grow a bit bigger. So that's the best bit of advice I can give you, and that's the same as if you're growing them in bags or in buckets or in the ground like I do, or in any way really. Earthing them up is pretty much the same sort of theory, if you like. So basically, wait till they're kind of 6 inches tall and then bury about 4 inches. If you want to do it again, wait for them to grow again and then obviously bury. But always keep the the top leaves out of the ground so the plant can get some light. The next one comes from Marina Wilson. Thank you, Wilson. Sorry, thank you for your comment. And she was saying, how do you grow cucumbers and melons up poles? Right, cucumbers are climbing plants by nature, so you can see. Not quite yet. They haven't got any tendrils on yet, but basically they will sort of grow kind of upright anyway. And then basically what you need to do is put the pole or wherever you're going to grow it up in the ground first, and then plant the cucumber so it's leaning against the pole, exactly like I did with the beans. And then as soon as the plant gets to, I don't know, about 18 inches, 2 foot high, it will start to get a bit sort of top heavy. You can tell by the plant, the way that it's, the way it's behaving. What I would suggest you do then is just get yourself a little bit of string. What you need to do is tie the string onto the pole first, and tie it nice and tight, and then go back round the pole, and then round the cucumber stalk, and then just tie it loosely. So there's a tight knot, but the cucumbers, you're not strangling the plant basically. And I'll show you this as I do it later on, but basically what you need to do is kind of tie it around the pole tightly so the string doesn't move up and down the pole, and then just go round the cucumber loosely, or the melon loosely, so that the plant can actually move in there. Now as soon as you get to sort of so high, what the cucumber plant will do is throw out little runners. And if I just turn the camera around here, you'll be able to see them on the right, there's one there. Look, this is the grapevine. It's another vine plant, so it'll grow in exactly the same way. So you can see there's little tendrils here that it throws out. Now, obviously, to start with, I've sort of tied these in loose. You can see the strings sort of loose. It's not, you know, sort of too tight on the plant. Now, as soon as it gets to a certain height, it will start naturally to throw these out anyway. As soon as it starts to throw them out, typically you don't need to tie it anymore, and then it'll just, as it moves up, it'll naturally tie itself to the pole or whatever structure that you've got going on in your greenhouse or in your garden or wherever. So that's the best bit of advice I can give you. What you might need to do is just keep your eye on it, and then if they're starting to, you know, sort of not hold on to the structure for whatever reason, you might need to put another tie up or something, you know, at the end. But really, cucumbers, melons and vine plants basically in general should hold themselves up against whatever they're doing. But the best bit of advice I can give you is, if you're tying it, don't tie it tight. So basically tie around the pole tightly, but the string that goes round the actual plant itself should be loose, so that the plant can move about and you're not strangling it or bruising the stem. Right, the next comment comes from Arthur Cookney, and he was talking about when I was discussing rotating crops last week. I said really it's the brassicas that you need to watch out for, and Arthur made a point, and he is dead right. With alliums, and alliums basically are the family of plants which include all of things like onions, leeks, garlic, chives. You know, and obviously the ornamental alliums as well. But basically, in a vegetable garden, when you say alliums, basically you're talking about onions, leeks, garlic, chives. You know, all these sorts of things. You can get this problem called white rot, and basically white rot is it's devastating to alliums. It'll just wipe them out, and it's a fungus which lives in the ground. And if you've got it, you know, as Arthur quite rightly said. It's in the ground for years, and you can't grow, you know, alliums there. So that's another reason for rotating plants around. He's right. It's not only brassicas. It's onions as well, which, you know, I always try and well, I always do rotate my onions around with the potatoes. But so that's another one to look out for. But really, for a healthy garden, you know, just try and rotate everything like I do as much as you possibly can do, because you can't rotate plants too often, really. And you know, if you can sort of give 2, 3, 4 years between growing them in that particular spot, you know, the more time the better, because obviously it's disease control, and it's you know, it's the right thing to do. So thank you for your comments, Arthur. Appreciate that, mate. Now, David Salisbury also, you know, as I said earlier on, he also had beans that were sort of grown upside down. So it seems to be quite a common theme, sort of running through. You know, the allotment at the moment, you know, we've got these sort of beans upside down. Another common theme that I've actually had, I've been talking to a few people this week, and nobody can get peas to grow. These peas, the second batch of peas I've put in, again, haven't been very good at all. And there's been a few of my friends here on the allotments that have also planted peas in the ground, and none of them have grown, or only a few of them have grown compared to normal. And I think what it is, to be honest with you, and this is what makes gardening sort of interesting and a challenge, really. This year we've had weather that's been really hot in the day and really cold at night, and we've had dry periods and we've had really wet periods where we've had, I mean, I think it was last week we had 4 inches of water in the space of an hour. And then we did have no rain then for about 5 days, and then we had another really bad downpour. And it completely filled the water butts in the space of an hour. So we've had dry periods, we've had really wet periods, we've had humid periods because of it being hot in the day, and then we've also had dry days as well, and where it's been cool as well. And I think this is kind of messed with, you know, some crops. The sweet corn, I normally do really well with sweet corn. This year, again, the second batch that I've grown, really out of all the seeds I've put in, and there's been what's that, 15, 30, 45, I've put 90 seeds in so far this year, and I think I've got about, out of that, I've got about 25, 30 plants, which is terrible, to be honest with you. Normally, with sweet corn I get about probably 80 or 90% success rate. This year, you know, obviously it's down to sort of, I don't know, 20-25% success rate, so it's not so good with corn. Peas are obviously a very similar crop, you know, and the peas have just been a complete bloody disaster to us. So what I'm going to do is, if these peas don't come up in the next few days, what I'm going to do is just scrap them, and then what I'm going to do is wait for a few months till the weather starts to stabilise, and I'll put some straight in the ground later on. So so we have had some funny weather this year, and it's been, you know, sort of extremes. We've had really hot, we've had, you know, days, and then we've had really cold nights, and we've had really dry periods, and we've had really wet periods. And some plants have flourished. The potatoes are nowhere near as good as they were last year, and I actually planted them in exactly the same week last year. And I've looked back at pictures and videos that I've got of the plot this time last year, and the potatoes are kind of that high. And this year, you know, you know, they're a good sort of foot lower than they were last year. So the weather has, you know, not been that good really for growing this year so far. And this grapevine here just doesn't know what to do. It kind of starts to shoot and then it stops, and then it starts to shoot and stops. And I think that's down to the weather, you know, because it gets a warm period and it goes, right, we're off, and then it goes cold again. It goes, well, hang on a minute, and then it's kind of good. My grapevine talked. But the you know, this one grapevine here just to the left of the camera doesn't know what to do at the moment. You know, it is growing, but it just kind of grows a bit then stalls. So you know, we've had a few problems with the weather. The next thing comes from Teresa H, and she was saying about the tunnels. And yes, I move the tunnels every year, and this is an important thing about the tunnels. When you make a tunnel, what you want to do is make it so it is light enough to move about, you know, so a couple of people can pick it up and move it along. Mine are reasonably light. I can actually move them by myself pretty much. It's easy with two people, but what I've actually done is made them so I can pull them along and then put them in the new position. And then what I've got is a stake in each of the corners, which is driven into the ground by about 2 foot, and then there's 2 in the middle as well, driven down 2 foot. And then I've got some really meaty sort of cable ties that I tie them onto the side of the tunnels. The reason I do that is we get a reasonable amount of wind through here, and the first year that I made it, the wind got under the green one and blew it onto its, you know, onto its top, and it bent all the poles and stuff like that. So ever since, I've driven these sort of steel stakes into the ground and sort of tied it down, so even if the wind gets under it, that, you know, they're going to anchor it down onto the ground. But yeah, I always do move them about, and I've got with the tunnels, I've got a 3-year cycle that, you know, that I move them up and down. So you know, they're always moving every year pretty much. The next one comes from 2 people, Shannon Robinson and Grumpy Poo, and they were talking about earwigs. Now, touch wood, I haven't had a problem with earwigs this year. I have had in the past, not in the allotment, but in my garden. And they are little buggers, and they can go through and absolutely demolish plants. For some reason, they tend to single out certain plants. I don't know why. You can have 5 of the same plant and they'll just kill one of them. But Shannon was saying that she's tried a few different techniques, and Grumpy Poo saying that they've tried a few sort of techniques, going out early in the morning and late at night and trying to catch the little critters and basically squash them. Or they've also tried bottles with, there was a comment the other week where they had bottles and they put sort of leaves and stuff in there to try and lure them in, so they could, you know, try and catch them that way. But Shannon said that basically she's resorted to using 7 dust, which is basically a powder that you can put on the floor, which then, you know, sort of kills the earwigs. And I agree with you, Shannon. At the end of the day, we can all be as organic as we possibly can do, but at some point you've got to draw the line and say enough's enough. I've tried the organic way, it hasn't worked. Chemicals, unfortunately, that's the obviously, you know, you only resort to that at the, you know, absolute extreme. But if you've got all of your plants being absolutely decimated by some insect or whatever, sometimes you just got to say you either give up or you know, resort to chemicals. So but she was saying she's used 7 dust, and that's sort of knocked them back quite a bit. And the last comment comes from Ken Fuller, and he was saying, how many beans that I'm planting. He's only, I think he's growing 6 beans or 6 bean plants or something, or 8 bean plants, and he was saying, why do I grow so many? The reason I grow so many, Ken, is, and I'll show you doing this later in the year. I did put a video out on it last year. I'll show. I didn't actually show me doing it. I just explained how to do it. But the reason I grow so many beans is I freeze them, and all I do basically is when the beans are coming, and I'm picking probably about 2 kilos a day or something like that. Basically, what I do is I quickly chop them up into sort of, I don't know, inch sections. Half-inch sections sort of thing, and then what I do is I get a nice big pot with about 1 gallon of water in there boiling, and then all I do is I basically put the beans in there, bring them back up to the boil for about 30 seconds, 60 seconds. So basically I literally just blanch them, take them straight out, dry them off, put them on a like a kitchen towel or something like that, and then just quickly pat them dry. And then I bag them up into 1 kilo bags, and then I freeze them in the freezer. And I've still got beans in the freezer from last year. And the reason I do this is because my kids love runner beans. You know, it's always a winner, and I think it's always nice during the winter, you know, to have some, you know, sort of greens and that you've grown yourself. And runner beans for me is a win-win situation, because if you blanch them like that and freeze them, when you cook them, they are really nice. You know, they don't go mushy or anything like that in the fridge, in the freezer, and you can keep them in the freezer for, I don't know, 9 months or so. They typically don't last that long in my house, but as I say, we've got about I think we've got about 5 or 6 kilos left from last year, and I actually froze about 40 or 50 kilos of beans last year, and I do that every year, so I've got a stockpile of them in the house. So when we have Sunday lunches or sort of evening meals during the week, I can just get a bag out, drop them in the water, you know, bring them to the boil for a couple of minutes, serve them up, and everybody's happy. So that's why I grow so many beans. And the good thing with runner beans and French beans, you can do it with. Is you can very easily, you know, sort of quickly chop them up, blanch them, and then bag them up into sort of 1 kilo bags, put them in the freezer, and then you're good for, I don't know, 9 months of bean supply. So that's the questions for this week. So, I hope this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments that you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden.